We are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my thoughts on Daredevil Born Again Season 1, Episode 4. Dude, sick! Semper Systema. This episode is rated something. I'm thinking probably TVMA, but for some reason it's not showing up. Definitely this video will be. Pretty sure it's TVMA considering certain things in there. And yeah. This video will have spoilers for the episode and everything MCU leading up to it. Love this episode, love most of the MCU. Let's dive right in. So, yeah, I thought this did a really great job criticizing the system. That is, of course, what the title is referring to with its Harry Potter words. Let's see, the original is Six Semper Tyrannis, I have it right here. Thus always to tyrants, and the rephrasing means thus always to the system, Fisk has all this power, and yeah, there's a little bit of limitation, but he is, like, bulldozing his way, even though, there's this, I forget her name, but, the one who says she was here before Fisk, she'll be here after, she is trying to rein him in and say, you can't do this, this is not how this works, but he's just barely listening, that was the whole thing with, oh, we gotta just tear it up by the root and do something completely new. That was very Trisk, which for the newcomers is what I say when Fisk is like Trump, at least he did eventually listen. With his concepts of a plan, implementation is gonna take a little doing. It's not just snap your fingers and there you go. I almost feel bad for Daniel. People keep telling him to keep his mouth shut when, like, that's literally clearly impossible for him to do. He practically talks his way out of getting to keep his job. Like, just holy shit, dude. But no, overall, don't feel too bad for him. He's, pretty terrible for supporting Trisk. Let's see, the thing with, him hating having to do these various, dude, this is the job, she says, she doesn't say dude, but, yeah, and him, so there's a meme that's on the Reddit for maybe Marvel, maybe the show specifically, where with, like, basically saying, Fisk is screaming internally during the song, and I like that the closed captioning is for the hard of hearing, so it's very specific, and it specifies, they're, what was it, like, discordant or out of tune, something like that, and yeah, he's just in there, yeah, oh, but, wow, that, and the teacher's like, oh, well, for the next one, nope, no more, please, no more, and just, yeah, and then he goes in, and the others are also singing that, which, like, yeah, what was it, Latvian Day of something or other, that's very cool. I actually, years ago, knew a girl from Latvia, incredibly smart, really devoted to her education, just, yeah, some really great people from Latvia, a foreign exchange student. We weren't in the same class, but we were doing the same education. I was in the native born, she was in the immigrant version. Yeah. But yeah, had some really great conversations with her. Yeah. Moving on. So that was also great with Matt catching that, from the name and the smell of the apparently specific to the culture food that she had, just, yeah. It's right. I also like that, as he's walking up to, where am I? Yeah, people are having to tell Trump that a lot, whenever he's in office. And the answer way too often is Mar-a-Lago. Anyway, did I add one R too many to that word? Anyway, that combination of, anyway, yeah, he's walking up the stairs. He's like, I mean, who gives a shit about Christmas? I mean, yeah. And let's see, yeah, I thought the therapy was a great scene. This thing of, yeah, it was triggering for her childhood trauma that he was just gone. And, yeah, she feels safe around him, but there is the thing about Adam, and yeah, at the end we see he's kept Adam there, long enough for the guy to grow a beard, which, is fairly frequent shorthand for it's been a long time, he hasn't had access to, or maybe he was in a car accident like Doctor Strange, but anyway. And he just can't get the hang of calling Fisk Mayor. He's like, Mr. Fisk. It's Mayor Fisk. Fisk. Is he, like, doing that on purpose? Maybe he's like, what else is the guy gonna do to me, And, yeah, you also saw some bruises on him, so clearly, it, like, the captivity would be bad enough, but it goes beyond that. I really, yeah, the thing with Leroy, that was one of the main ways this episode criticized the system, Yeah, at first he's being very smart alecky with Matt and very insensitive about the blindness, but yeah, by the end the facade cracks and we see, yeah, he's hurt and he lashes out, and yeah, I really appreciated him pointing out, they're gonna spend 5 times as much money putting me in prison as they would feeding me, which would in fact, we've seen that from, the countries that make sure that even if you're extremely poor, even if you're homeless, you can still get enough to eat, for it to be healthy, there's less crime, especially when it comes to stealing food. And, he points out, what about the cops? They stole food too. And, he points out he lost his fucking food stamps because of the system. It's like, I don't know, I think some people would say, oh, it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is fucking up. I think it's purposeful. I would argue that it is too frequent for it to be accidental. The system in America is set up to punish the poor, punish people who don't have a lot of options by just taking and kicking them while they're down. Of course he's gonna steal food. Anyone, like, there is almost no one who would not steal food if sufficiently hungry. And let's see, because, like, keep in mind, the food stamps and the prison, they're part of the same system. It's not like one of these is like, it's not like he's trying to organize, 2 different countries working together or something. It's just different parts of the American, government system. It's yeah, both are controlled by the government. They could have just said, oh, he's in jail, let's, he doesn't have to show up for, I think they called it SI appointment, It would be so easy, but they won't do it because of this fucking Old Testament bullshit where, oh, we're all such terrible people and you just have to punish someone, you just have to wait for them to make even a tiny little bit of slip up and then destroy their life, I mean, Old Testament would say, oh, well, kill him. Yeah, just, and we get some more great ACAB stuff with the, honestly, if, like, every single episode from now on of this show, of every show, features at least one confrontation, at least one conversation between Matt and, I'm going to see if I can find his name real quick, Powell. I would be very happy with that, because my God, they're good together. The little threats that, a lawyer who does, that could, I think the Bar Association would love to know that. And, there are some of my more excitable, colleagues. They'll have to bring more than last time. Wow. Just, yeah. And, dudes just got done saying, oh, this wasn't me. I am a cop. And my grandfather and my dog is a cop. Everyone's a cop. Everywhere I look, cop, cop, cop. But I didn't do, no, this isn't wrong, Oh, by the way, my buddies who are also cops, like I was just talking about how everyone I know is a cop, they're gonna fuck you up. So, yeah, At that point, it doesn't really mean that much anymore for you to say, oh, no, I didn't kill Ayala, yeah, but it was obviously a cop, and now you're threatening him with other cops. Like, see, this is what conservatives don't seem to understand. Motherfucker, if you want us to take you seriously when you talk about honor and decency and all this actually good value stuff that you claim to believe, if you weren't just trying to weaponize it to get people to look bad when we argue against you, you would have to actually live up to it. Like, saying that you didn't do it when you're okay with the people who did do it being very much like you. Yeah, just wow. But yeah, very accurate, and I really appreciate this. I think this is the exact right time to be critical of cops. We really need to be, as many, gradually more and more people, well, perhaps not so gradually, more and more people, at this point it's like an avalanche, more and more people are turning against Trump. They're regretting voting. We need as many of those people as at all possible to understand the cops are not their friends. They are part of the system. And any cop who continues to support, because, like, hypothetically they could, like, occasionally you hear about them striking, but a lot of the time they're striking for the wrong reason. Yeah. I think that, right, just briefly, Heather and Matt continue to be very sweet together. The thing about, now I can't imagine, not coming home to, yeah. I think that, oh, right, great to see, Muse. We've seen some of, oh, fuck, is that a spoiler? Okay, I'll just say, from what I understand, I don't think I've read any comics that had him in there. And I'm pretty sure this is not just, like, that guy who has a podcast with the Rap Critic here on YouTube. Anyway, from what I understand, we've seen some signs of his presence before now. But yeah, I really love how they're really going all in on this. Like, he just straight up drains this guy's blood. He's got several people hanging up there. Really, I don't know how many victims he's had so far total, but it's giving 7. And yeah, the thing with the shell casing, very, very clever. Yeah, if you don't test the, maybe these cops just need to play more of The Incredible Machine. I don't know. Finds the shell, finds Frank. I am a little bit unsure if the 2 seasons of The Punisher are canon, because, like, I appreciate they didn't have to, like, force a reference in there, but like by the end of season 2, you know, it's essentially, and this was something that apparently pissed some people off quite substantially, and I understand. I think they were 2 great seasons anyway, but yeah, the 2 seasons are essentially the origin. Like, it's not just like when you watch season 2 of Daredevil, you're like, oh, this is his origin as the Punisher, and then you watch season 1, it's like, oh, I guess this is his origin as his, I mean, it doesn't contradict. Well, no, as far as I recall, it doesn't really outright contradict, but, you know, he thought that he had taken out all of them in season 2 of Daredevil, and then turned out there were more. But then season 2 of Punisher is also, he's still not quite fully Punisher, and then at the very, very end, finally, you know, he dons, well, he has put on the skull a couple of times, but, you know, at the very end, like, undeniably very Punisher at the very, very end. You know, tricking 2 different gangs to show up at the same place, gunning them all down. That's, yeah, that's something right out of the comics. But I don't know, it just felt like, maybe it's because he also has grown a sadness beard, but he does say that he's planning the next hit, so maybe he is. I wouldn't have guessed that he was so down in the dumps after season 2. That seemed to bring his spirits up at least somewhat, you know, but yeah, I don't know. And I appreciate, you know, he doesn't have to, like, I get him not telling Matt exactly what his plan is because, you know, they tend to work against each other, so, yeah. Fucking amazing acting throughout the entire scene between Matt and Frank. That's another thing, if every show from now on has at least one scene between those two, that would also be quite astounding. I have talked about Jon Bernthal's acting before. I'm not sure if I've fully given credit to, like, there's so much going on non-verbally. Like, his eyes are a big thing. I've seen a lot of actors do a lot with their eyes. His entire head, like, the way it'll, like, shake, like, he's about to explode into violence. You know, it's just, it's so perfect. And, you know, I've watched the other 3 live-action Punishers. I think all 3 do, you know, at least something extremely well. I'm still quite fond of the... okay, this will not stand. I am gonna look up his name real quick. I think I do know what it is, but just to make sure. Nope, that was not... Ray Stevenson, that's it. Yeah, I was thinking of the... my first thought was Ray Winstone, but no, that's a different... Anyway, R.I.P. Stevenson. I still think he did a phenomenal job. And again, the other 2, Dolph was probably the weakest link. And it's just... I said in my review of that movie, I wish that he had played it more the way he did just 2 years later in Universal Soldier 1. But, yeah. Anyway, I do think Jon Bernthal is the very best, and it's one of these things, like, when reading the comic, I did get the sense that he is, like, barely containing his rage. You know, that was also, you know, Fisk shouting at his employees, like, there's the fucking Phoenix Force right under there trying to, you know, yeah. Right, one thing I will say in Daniel's favor, he did at least come clean. He didn't, you know, yeah. Let's see. And apologize and say, you know, forgiveness, this, that, and the other thing, and yeah. Right, and I really appreciate BB's, you know, integrity as a reporter, you know, with the, yeah, Mayor Garbage. Yeah, that's... You know, you gotta criticize the powerful, even if a friend of yours is, you know, connected to a powerful, you know, it would be deeply unethical of her to bury that story just because a friend of hers is working for Fisk. Although, I think at this point, I don't know if they're really friends so much. As, you know, she thinks of him as a contact, probably. Connection. Anyway, yeah. source, something like that. Yeah, the entire scene between Matt and Frank, and I really appreciate this. Is something, again, in recent, it's not exclusive to MCU related stuff, but in recent years, we've seen these depictions where a hyper-masculine man can still be allowed some moments of vulnerability. Both of them, are deeply saddened by those they've lost. And, Frank pointing out, why can't you say his name? And seeing right through, you want to get your hands on him. That was in one of the trailers, and the moment I heard that, I was like, Frank is back. And, yeah, what can I say except welcome back, Frank.